If we want to increase the diversity of our gut microbiome, improving our metabolic health like that, we've got to simply increase the diversity in foods that we're eating. All right. We've got to feed. Every bacteria strain has its respective preferences in food. One of the most recent discoveries is that there's a certain strain of bacteria that it fucking loves coffee. It loves coffee. Okay, whenever we eat a food, we're eating that food's microbiome. And so we're taking on that data. Food isn't just food, it's information.
Shawn, what's up, man? It has been a very long time since we talked. We talked in the early years of the Order of Man podcast, so it's good to have you back on.
I'm grateful to be here, man. Grateful to catch up and excited to talk today.
Yeah, well, food is such an important component of health, being a man. It's the fuel that drives our body, and I think it's something that we don't really, at least I don't spend a whole lot of time thinking about. I just eat what's in front of me. And as I get older, I'm realizing I can't eat like my 17-year-old son anymore. So I'm a little more mindful of the way that I consume food than I've been in the past, that's for sure.
Yeah, you grew up like I did. We grew up in the 80s and 90s, and, food culture changed a lot around that time. It really shifted culturally to a lot of convenience, and the marketing, was really phenomenal in getting busy parents to, essentially just kind of downgrade the process of eating together as a family. Right. So right now, according to some researchers at Harvard, only about 30% of families eat together on a regular basis. So that's kind of like on the endangered species list. And along with that came convenience foods, a lot of microwave dinners. I know that we always had some Totino's pizza rolls in the freezer, stuff that we could just pop in the microwave, eat and go, fast food. And, here's the thing. There can be some good intention and benefit behind all this stuff. We don't want to make this a completely black or white issue. There's so much gray area, and it's wonderful to have access and convenience and different things to try. But we've got to lean more into what are we really designed to eat? How can we thrive, and fueling our bodies and our families. And also, this is the big thing too, and why I really appreciate you, is that we are sharing these habits with our families and writing the future of our lineage. And it matters, so we are in a position now to really take control of what our future looks like and what our family's future looks like. And so this has really been my mission, especially the last few years. I've been in this field for 23 years, which is crazy.
Wild.
Crazy.
It is.
And the last few years, and I'm a nutritionist, but the last few years I've really seen how important it is. And our greatest leverage point is the quality of our relationships and our families. It affects everything else. There's nobody that's more influential on what I eat than my wife, than my exercise habits, my sleep habits. She is the most influential person, and the same with my kids. And so what we're talking about now is having the opportunity to change our culture. And so for me, it's just like, I think it's important for us to define and understand what culture is. Culture is a shared attitudes, behaviors, beliefs that are shared by a group of people and then passed down from one generation to the next. All right, that's what culture is. Our culture right now, I'm just going to say it how our culture is fucked up right now when it comes to our health.
In a lot of ways.
And in a lot of ways. And just sticking to health. And this is according to the CDC. They just published this data about a year ago. Over 60% of American adults now have at least one chronic disease. And over 40% have two or more chronic diseases. We are not doing well. And this trend of lifespan increasing, which it was, humans kept living, we're living longer and longer on average. But recently, about a decade ago, that switched. And now we have the first generation alive today that's not going to outlive their ancestors. That's not going to outlive the generation before them. This trend of increasing lifespan has reversed. And so we have a largely unhealthy very unhealthy culture. And so what I want to encourage everybody today and in this conversation is to take control of our microculture in our household first and foremost. So many of us, I know the guys listening to this want to change the world. It starts at home. So focus on changing our microculture, and that has this really powerful effect on being contagious outside of our doors because we take our culture with us. We're a representation of our culture. And so we have a lot of opportunity here, but also we got to understand, it's very difficult if we find ourselves getting well adjusted to a largely sick culture. And so we've got to change that.
It is, I love everything that you're saying. It is interesting in the 80s, you talk about growing up and you talk about the convenience of fast food, processed food, TV dinners, microwave meals. So it's the convenience and the cost. I grew up, primarily my mom was a single mother for a large part of my youth. And every birthday she would say, "What do you want for your birthday dinner?" And I grew up thinking that Salisbury steak oven or microwave dinners was the thing that I wanted on my birthday because I was so accustomed to these frozen Salisbury steak meals. And she's like, "Are you serious? I'll make you a real steak." I'm like, "No, I want that." And
I want the mushy
and it was
steak.
hard for her. Yeah, the gross texture steak. I don't even know if you can call it steak, but that's using that term very liberally. But it was hard for her because she was working up to 3 jobs at a time at times in our youth to raise my sister and I. And so I certainly understand. And then you think about mothers, more and more mothers now are in the workforce, more and more homes are single parent households. And so this is an uphill battle. But I think to your point, there seems to have been a greater cost associated with opting for convenience and price. And now we're paying the cost in our health, in the way that we perform, the way that we show up. Even in your book, Eat Smarter, you talk about mental performance and clarity. And one of the things that really stood out to me is how you're replicating your cells, I think is the term you use, replicating your cells constantly. And you're either replicating with good, healthy, productive cells or bad, broken, and unhealthy cells. And that really stood out to me just by the food that we consume.
Yeah. In my university education, which I went to an expensive private university in St. Louis, or right outside of St. Louis, and in this class, this nutritional science class, that again I paid good money to attend this class and to attend this school and to get this education, I was really disillusioned about how food relates to health. Now, I want to be very clear about this. This is life transforming when you get this. So I decided to go into this pre-med program because I got this programming from my environment, watching TV, like I should be a doctor. That looks like a good life, watching the Cosby Show. And which, is kind of messed up, anyways. But
yeah, sure. Hindsight is 2020, but the show was still great. So we can isolate that.
The show is great. But just getting this programming, like they look like a healthy family because similar to you, families come in so many different shapes and sizes and forms and fashions. And, I had, as many people do, like a largely complicated, dysfunctional family. And it was predominantly my mother and my stepfather. And we lived in a very volatile environment, a lot of violence outside of my home, oftentimes, again, hearing gunshots, sirens, this just came background music of my life. And also inside of my home, a lot of violence as well. And so coming from this environment and understanding that, again, we're all just trying to figure this stuff out, making the decision to go to a university and pursue this pre-med degree was just totally outside of my realm of experience. Like I didn't know anybody who was a doctor except when I went to the doctor. let alone I didn't know anybody who ever went to college or graduated from college that I knew personally outside of like my teachers or again, just people that are not close in proximity to me. And so my point being, I was fully trusting in this education system to teach me how to do this stuff. And I hated it. I hated it. I hated my biology class. I hated the nutritional science class. And it was because something wasn't adding up. It didn't make sense. When we were in biology class studying the cell, it was so foreign to every student in there. Yes, we could have rote memorization and understand these different parts, the nucleus and the mitochondria, the cell membrane and all this stuff, all these organelles. We can understand it mechanically, but nobody in my class, the teacher included, understood that when we are looking at that cell, we are looking at the food that we've eaten. There was a disconnect. And in my nutritional science class, my teacher was not telling us that the food that we're talking about here is making every cell of your body. Your mitochondria is made from your menu. Your cell membrane is made from your meals. Your nucleus is made from the nutrients that you eat. You're literally, all these cell parts that we're looking at, that is food. It doesn't just come from nowhere. It's made from the food that you're eating. And you get to choose the quality of the materials that you're building your body with. That's how powerful it is. And so I got out of that program, by the way, which again, this is all unconscious. So I got out of that program, went into business instead because of it was a movie called Boomerang with Eddie Murphy and another classic. But I was like, oh, that looks cool. I'll do that. Right. So because again, I didn't have exposure, my culture was not guiding me on what to choose for myself. But because of my own health issues, it guided me back to studying biology, to studying kinesiology, to studying nutritional science. And it was transformative now because I understood the connection. By getting myself healthy, by getting myself well, I understood the power of food. And for me,
that personal testimony is sometimes more powerful than any data or anything like that. I keep going. I didn't want to interrupt, but that personal testimony, when you actually implement things, is so much more powerful when other people hear what you've gone through, let alone what you read in a textbook somewhere.
Yeah, it becomes a part of you. It is a part of the texture and the makeup of your voice and who you are and how people connect with you because it's coming from an authentic place. And, I was thinking about this yesterday, man. Oh my goodness. I was watching something with my wife and my son, and we were looking at, the world championships are going on right now in track and field. And we were looking at the 400 sprint. And I was just saying, like, man, I didn't, at the time, I didn't like being in the starting blocks for the 400 because I ran the 1, 2, 4 long jump. And I was excelling. But because we're not that fast yet, as far as like being able to sustain our speed for 400 meters, I didn't like coming out of the blocks with that particular race.
Anything longer than about 50 yards is too long for me. So you got me beat there for sure. But I can run with the best of them for about 50 yards.
There you go. I mean, that's all you need a lot of times, And speaking of which, right after my sophomore season, we did our 40-yard dash trials. And so I was 15 and I ran a 4.5. So it was the fastest. Yeah, it was the fastest in the grade. And also, I mean, except there was a couple of seniors that ran upper 4.4s, and they went on to be like collegiate track athletes. And I was just kind of the next in line, And this was all for me. It was all for football. I ran track to be faster on the football field. And later on that season is when the breakdown started to really manifest consciously. And I was doing a 200-meter time trial. And as I was coming off the curve into the straightaway, my hip broke. Just from running, I broke my hip because my
Yeah.
bone density was so low, because I was fueled up on fucking Tostino's pizza rolls. And every day, every single day, man, I'm either eating all this bullshit cereal, these kids' cereals for breakfast, mini muffins, donuts every day. For lunch, I'm eating a personal pizza at school, pretzel with cheese, and dipping that personal pizza into the fucking cheese. And then for dinner, we either eating fast food or my mom occasionally would make something. Occasionally. So we're talking maybe twice a week she would make something. And I'm literally, again, making my body out of these things. My parents don't understand. They don't know that this is a result of how I'm eating, that my body's breaking down. And unfortunately, what I went through was what we refer to as standard of care. So I break my hip, which I don't know. I'm just limping. And I come to practice the next day and the coach is like, you need to go get checked out. And so I go get an x-ray done and there's my iliac crest. My bone was just like floating off away from my body. And the physician's like, oh, there's the issue. We're going to get you on some crutches. You're going to heal just fine. We'll get you some anti-inflammatories. And I'm just a kid, so I'm just doing what they say. It was cool. I got to get out of class.
Right. How would you know? Yeah.
Take the school elevator, But nobody asked, how did a child, a thriving, apparently very fit athlete, break his hip?
Yeah, fit, athletic.
From merely running. It doesn't make sense. That should have been a huge warning sign that my bone density was incredibly low. When you think about somebody breaking their hip, we usually think about people who are
older, elderly people. Yeah. Or car accidents.
Or some kind of trauma, some really.
Right.
And also, the other thing is, it tends to be something that happens with big changes in hormones as well. And so that was the first incident. And I had half a dozen more injuries after that. I have game film right in this closet right here on VHS. I was a running back, 39 sweep. I get past the safety. I'm 5 yards from the end zone and I come up limping and I limp and fall into the end zone. Nobody touched me, but just like tearing a muscle, My bones were just so brittle. And eventually, a couple years after that, I get diagnosed with degenerative disc disease. My spine is deteriorating rapidly. So much so, the physician said I had the spine of an 80-year-old. So this very old body was manifested in a very young person, right? And at this point, my aspirations of playing college football and all the things that I was trying to do to get out of where I come from, it was gone. My identity was shattered, So it wasn't just the physical breakdown, it's the mental breakdown. And so just to put a bow on this, this background in this story, for that to show up on a scan where my L4, L5, S1 discs are so degenerated, they're showing up black on the MRI. That's years. That is years of breakdown before that shows up. And what brought me in was, again, just pain, like nuisance of a pain. But standard of care, I'm going to get you a back brace. I'm going to get you now. We're not talking about just some, over the counter stuff. We're talking about some pretty strong drugs.
Heavy drugs. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I go on to this cycle of medication. And this is during when Vioxx is popping. Vioxx ended up killing approximately 40,000 people. Okay.
Whoa.
And I was a prescription pad away because Vioxx was hot at the time, but so was Celebrex. So Celebrex was my first drug that I was given. That had side effects, which hadn't been noted yet. It didn't even have its real, popular name yet. Restless leg syndrome.
Right.
And so I couldn't sleep at night. It felt like my legs were trying to fucking leave me. Like, that magician thing where they saw your body in half.
I've had that. This was years ago. I pulled back to make the bed and I took the sheets off, put them in the wash, put them back on the bed. And where my legs were worn thin. like the fabric was so thin because all night long my legs are just completely restless, moving back and forth, running a marathon in my sleep, apparently.
It's crazy, man.
It is.
And once that gets its own like label diagnosis, we got a drug for that. We got a drug for that too. But our bodies are intelligent. It's not doing this for no reason. And, so now I'm on another drug and I can't sleep at night. So I'm on a drug for that. And now I have this phenomenon called polypharmacy. And at its root, again, my physician, as well-intended as they might be, told me that this was incurable. You have the spine of an 80-year-old. There's nothing that you can do about this. And that is what is called a nocebo effect, right? Placebo is a positive injunction that some benefit will happen as a result of taking said medication, treatment, whatever the case might be.
Sure.
Placebos, on average, are 33% effective in clinical trials. Just
that is
the
wild
belief.
to me. This shows your mind. Yep, the power of the mind.
It is insane how many studies we have now on the placebo helping to, whether it's cancer tumors, blood pressure, arthritic conditions, mental health issues, anxiety, depression. There is hardly anything that as far as the human condition in chronic disease or acute conditions, that a placebo has not been found to benefit. Just the belief. All right.
Right.
And this is no longer coming from a guy who's figured this stuff out for himself. Today, my colleagues are some of the greatest minds in this field. The person I was just talking to is Dr. Ellen Langer, who is the first woman to receive tenure in the psychology department at Harvard. She's still a Harvard professor in psychology. She's been studying this stuff since the 1970s. All right. And so many of her studies are published in major peer-reviewed journals, but people just don't know about this stuff. And most of them have to do with how our mind instantaneously can change our biochemistry. And even her study, and this is pretty cool. I'm just going to share this for everybody. It was done in 1979. All right. And she shared this with me personally. And of course, like this is in, her book and, you could find this stuff online. But what she did was she wanted to see the impact that it would have on changing the environment for elderly men. So we're talking men that are, over 80. And she basically got 9 elderly men together and retrofitted the environment to be as if it was decades earlier. So the music that they listened to when they were younger, what the magazines were, just the environment itself was now matching their younger selves.
Right.
This was just a 1-week study, man. And let me tell you what happened. Again, this is all published in peer-reviewed journals. Their vision improved. Their hearing improved. They took pictures before and after and had other study participants to essentially estimate how old the people were. They became visibly younger in their face within a week. We're talking like years younger. Their dexterity improved. Flexibility improved. IQ improved. And overall cognitive performance. Like, I can go on and on. So many things improved simply based on their thinking and their perception about the environment around them and how they associate with it. It made them biologically younger. And today we know that there's a big difference between our chronological age and our phenotypic or biological age, right? I got my stuff done a few months ago, and I just turned 46, and my biological age is 37.4, right?
That's good because I got mine done about a month ago. I'm 43, and my biological age is 43. I'm like, okay, I got work to do here. I've got some work. I need to reverse this a little bit. That's true. That is true. I match.
Here's the thing, and this is why I'm so grateful to do this work, because I can provide context. The average person in the United States has a variability of being 5 years older to 5 years younger than their chronological age. All right. And so it's good that you are where you are and not worse. But of course, there are things that getting that data back that you can make better. And there are outliers. There are people who are up to 20 years older or younger than their chronological age. Confirmed, multiple studies. We know this. All right.
How do they measure that? Like what data are they actually using to measure the biological age?
All right. There are so many different ways to go about this. Today, gratefully, we have much more comprehensive data on this. And let me just be clear. I'm not 100% bought in on any of it, 100%, but we are so much further along in our understanding. So one of the big biomarkers.
I mean, it is a bit of a subjective thing, right? When you're choosing data points and you're saying, this is the thing we're going to measure. But as long as everybody's measuring somewhat of the same thing, then we can come to some sort of consensus about age health, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Yep. So some of the best markers are what we consider to be these metabolic health markers, right? So this is going to be looking at cardiovascular health and performance. This is going to be looking at immune system parameters. This is going to be looking at what your hormones are doing. And in particular, so if you're getting this really comprehensive biological age test done, they're going to be looking at all of your different hormones, stress-related hormones. So cortisol, what's cortisol doing? Your sex hormones, so testosterone, free testosterone, and estrogen. How is your body converting these things? Are you experiencing higher levels of aromatization? So this is when your testosterone can actually get grabbed and stolen and converted into estrogen. And that's usually related to what's going on with your insulin levels. And so how your body's processing, in particular, this impact with glucose. And so it can get a little bit complex, but in addition to that,
I've even heard things like the order in which you eat your food will affect insulin spikes. So do you eat your proteins or your vegetables first? Things like this that I never would have imagined, just even a couple of years ago, because I didn't know. It was ignorance.
Of course, there are things like that, but the biggest takeaway is you are different from everybody else. All right. And so in my book, Eat Smarter, which I'm grateful, it was a #1 health book in the United States when it came out. So it was like on Amazon, it was with Matthew McConaughey. His book came out,
Green
like Michelle Obama's book, like all of these really known. But then there's this one health book. And I'm grateful for that. But it was just I love that quote that there's nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come. And in the book, I shared this really fascinating study where they were looking at the metabolic impact or the glucose impact for test subjects eating a cookie versus a banana. And you would think that a cookie, of course, is going to spike people's blood sugar more than a banana, but it just depended on the person. Some people can eat a cookie.
Really?
And their blood sugar had a minor lift, but it just pretty much their body metabolized it efficiently, effectively, without spiking their blood glucose.
I want to be one of those kind of people. I'm sure I'm not, but I want to be one of those kind of people.
Cookie monsters are out here, man. And
that's right.
And for some people, the banana would spike their blood sugar 3-4 times higher than a cookie. So we all have a unique metabolic fingerprint, and that can change too. That can change based on a myriad of factors. One of the biggest things that was indicated in that study was the microbial fingerprint. So the makeup of their respective microbiome and the bacteria, how it's all associating with the food that they're eating. And so that's something else to consider when we're talking about potentially, and that's going to get added in, I believe, in a big way, especially in the next 5 years, is going to be GI testing. So gastrointestinal microbiome testing, because one of the most recent studies that has come out, and I was just talking about this with another Harvard professor, Dr. William Lee, and now it's been identified that people who are centenarians, so people who are who live to be 100 years or more, have a gut microbiome that's more similar to people who are decades younger than it is to the general elderly population. So that
makes sense, right? That's why they're living longer.
Exactly. But they're
at least factor of it.
And what they found specifically, but here's the thing, we can all do this. They found that they have higher rates, higher levels of diversity in their microbiome than people who are in the general elderly population. We can increase the diversity of our microbiome starting now, like whenever we become aware of this. And I'm going to come right back to that in just a second. But they also identified certain strains of bacteria that seemed that, again, this is correlation, not causation, that were showing up in these centurions that weren't showing up in the general elderly population. One of those is very popular. It's called Akkermansia, for example. And so we can like strive to do things to support the proliferation of those bacteria strains that they identified. And so to circle back to how do we increase this diversity, because this is important for all of us. One of the studies that I shared in Eat Smarter actually found that individuals who had less diversity in their gut microbiome had higher rates of insulin resistance and obesity independent of their calorie intake. Independent of their calorie intake. And
diversity matters more than what you're consuming, or the amount you're consuming, essentially.
So the diversity of our gut bacteria matters more than, how do we better put that? It matters more than having like certain, quote, probiotics, right? It's
okay,
diversity
sure.
matters more than having certain strains. Okay. Now there are certain strains, like we got firmicutes, and like we got these different classes of bacteria that are, correlated with certain things, but we need to focus on diversity. So how do we do that? This is one of the big takeaways for everybody today. This is really simple. If we want to increase the diversity of our gut microbiome, improving our metabolic health like that, we've got to simply increase the diversity in foods that we're eating. All right. We've got to feed.
Makes sense.
Every bacteria strain has its respective preferences in food. One of the most recent discoveries is that there's a certain strain of bacteria that it fucking loves coffee. It loves coffee. And it's so proliferated, like it's so widespread. It's found in people who don't drink coffee, right? Especially if they live in a household with you and you do drink coffee. All right. And it is correlated, this particular bacteria strain, and I found out about this from this world-leading geneticist shared this with me, Dr. Tim Spector, is correlated with better cardiovascular function. It's correlated, this strain of bacteria that loves coffee, with better cognitive performance. All right. So it has these notable benefits. And so with that said, here's the action step. Keep this in mind. Whenever we eat a food, we're eating that food's microbiome. Okay. Whenever we eat a food, we're eating that food's microbiome. And so we're taking on that data. Food isn't just food, it's information. And so being able to.
It is interesting. I wanted to say, when you say the food you're eating, you're taking on that food's microbiome, because I can tell the difference. I've really enjoyed hunting over the past 9-ish or so years. I can tell the difference in venison or even beef based on what it eats. There's a noticeable taste difference. And I think that's just supporting the claim that you're making, which is that you're actually consuming what that species of animal or vegetation is grown in. You're consuming that. That makes sense to me.
I said this statement years ago. It's become popular now. I'm grateful. But you could check my track record 20 years ago. All right. I said it's not just you are what you eat. It's you are what you ate. All right. And so keeping that in mind and in context, when you eat a blueberry, you're eating that blueberry's microbiome. When you eat an avocado, you're eating that avocado's microbiome. The makeup of the animal foods that you consume are going to be wildly different based on the diet of that respective animal, right? So we know that, and there was some controversy about this previously, but now it's very, very clear. We've got multiple studies now affirming, and I'm just going to pull one up because I'm with my guy. So let me pull this up right now.
And while you're doing that, it's strange how we learn things that seem like they would be common sense, and then you look back and wonder, why would anybody debate that? What would be the debate that you're not consuming whatever you ate? It just seems like such a common sense thing, but I guess the research.
But we don't think about it.
I guess
So
that's true. I mean, yeah.
just in this one lane in of itself, looking at conventionally raised grain-fed beef versus grass-fed beef. This was published in the peer-reviewed journal, the British Journal of Nutrition. And they found that beef from animals fed an abnormal diet of conventional grains contains up to 5 times less omega-3 fatty acids than what's found in grass-fed beef. And why does this matter? And this was cited in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition. Reports that omega-3 fatty acids have anti-obesity effects, and it helps improve our levels of satiety hormones. All right, so just keeping that in context, we're missing out on those things because we're eating animals that have been fed abnormal diet as well. And the vast majority, last little piece, the vast majority of antibiotics manufactured and used in this country, it's not for us. It's being used in factory farming with our cattle. All right.
Right.
But it's not being used to keep these animals from being sick. It's being used because decades ago, it was found and it was proven that prophylactic antibiotic use can increase weight gain dramatically.
Of course. I mean, you ever seen a chicken on steroids? They don't look like normal house chickens, man. Like get a chicken breast from the store and ask me what kind of chicken that you have or your neighbor has that has a chicken breast that large. It's it's pretty wild to see. But okay, so I want to go back to what you're saying about what you consume, not necessarily how much, because there is that conventional wisdom, and I think there's some truth to this. You tell me if I'm wrong. That not necessarily that a calorie is a calorie, but when it comes to losing weight, for example, if I burn on average 2,500 calories a day, if I eat 2,000 calories, I'm going to lose weight whether I eat grass-fed beef for 2,000 calories or donuts. I'm going to lose weight if I'm in that caloric deficit, but that doesn't always obviously equate to being healthy. I see a lot of skinny people who I would say are frail looking and unhealthy. But are there certain foods that make it harder, for example, to lose weight or create some real issues with the body? For example, one that often comes to mind is dairy. My body doesn't agree with dairy. And so I try to avoid that. I don't know if that's universally true or if that's not supposed to be something that we consume in the quantities that we do. What are your thoughts on that?
Really quickly, and I'm going to affirm this with one, this is going to blow your mind, all right, with this incredible study. But humans have been eating dairy for thousands of years, all right?
Right.
There are some people on planet Earth that do very well with it. Others do not, all right? But it is definitely something that, again, we can't be in this black or white. Humans were not meant to have. Humans have thrived on a lot of this stuff. But let's look at natural dairy versus what a lot of people have today, which is this kind of ultra processed dairy-like product like Kraft cheese singles. They can't call it cheese legally because
it looks like plastic.
Right,
it tastes like plastic. It looks like it.
Kraft singles. It's not Kraft cheese singles, but it's called Kraft singles. And so
interesting. Okay.
We've got this incredible study to affirm just exactly what you're talking about in regards to calories. And this was published in the journal Food and Nutrition Research. And this study was also in Eat Smarter. And so again, this was all research that I put together and published, back around 2000. Sorry, not 2000, 2020.
22.
The
Time goes
ages.
fast, man. It's like, wait. Yeah, for sure.
And so this was published in the journal Food and Nutrition Research. And the scientists wanted to find out what would happen with calorie expenditure when you eat a meal of processed foods or ultra processed foods versus a meal of whole foods. And so in this experiment, they had test subjects to eat a sandwich. And what they believed to be a whole food version of a sandwich, which was whole grain bread and cheddar cheese. And it's a crossover study. And they had test participants to eat a meal of what they refer to as an ultra processed version of that same sandwich, highly refined white bread and cheese product. So like Kraft singles. All right.
Got it.
So test subjects, and they track this because our bodies are The primary method of us expending calories is actually through our breathing. All right, so they're able
Breathing,
to
I've
actually
heard that.
track. Yeah, and so of course we think we're burning calories like when we're sweating or whatever, which we are, but the majority of energy that we're expelling is actually coming through our breath. And
Can
so,
you, just to add one other thing, and we'll answer this maybe in a minute. Can you increase your calorie expenditure by breathing properly? We'll come back to that.
all right, let's
But keep
bookmark
going.
that. All right, so they consumed these respective sandwiches, and here's what they found. When individuals ate the ultra processed version of that sandwich, they had a 50% reduction in calorie burn after eating that sandwich.
Whoa.
50% reduction in the elimination of those calories that they just
So
consumed.
it's not metabolizing the same way. Your
Their
body's not
bodies were creating essentially
processing it
like
correctly.
a metabolic, I look at it like metabolic clogs, where the body is not able to kind of figure out how to process, how to expel this energy that it consumed. Now, just to be clear, this is short term, okay? Our bodies work really hard and very intelligent trying to sort stuff out overall on average. But what if you're eating like that every single day, right? And you're counting your calories and you're trying to figure out why it's not working for you. What this is, when we're talking about the quality of the food, this should be obvious at this point. All calories are not the same. They're not the same. I went back in that book, in that program, to illuminate where did this concept of calories that we're so superficially talking about, where does it come from? This was something that was in the domain of physics. This had nothing to do with nutrition.
You
And when
talked
we
about the energy, right? Measurement of energy.
exactly, and we're taking that in the context of nutrition, and initially we were using something else was called a bomb calorimeter to incinerate a food and to see how much it would heat up water. Okay, and that's how you find out how many calories are in a particular food. We are not bomb calorimeters. Everything that we eat
Right.
does not get incinerated and kind of create this thermic energy. It doesn't work like that. There are certain things that we eat that don't get metabolized at all, as far as that's concerned. Fiber, for example. And so that's how you have this kind of net carbs, right? Our bodies are not processing certain things. It's very complex. Our body is not a calculator. All right. Some people might have heard that before. It's not just this energy in, energy out, a very clean thing. This is not to say that calories are not a valuable metric for us to pay attention to, but you got to
Sure.
understand whatever's on that label telling you how many calories are in that thing, that does not indicate how many calories your body's going to absorb, how many it's going to process and utilize, and also how many calories are actually in that food. Because today, what's on that label, we use the Atwater system. They're not using a bomb calorimeter to find out exactly how many calories are in that food. It's something that's generally accepted. Like it has about this much. It's math. They're just doing math
Give
and
or
putting it on the
take.
label.
It's a guideline.
Right. So there isn't a perfect kind of summation or match in understanding how the calories in food is showing up. And also same thing with exercise. You can see how many calories you burn on the treadmill. That's not precise, and it could be wildly different depending on you and your unique metabolism. And so all of this to say, when it comes to that study with the ultra processed sandwich, what you're seeing is something called an epicaloric controller. So this is above calorie control. I shared earlier how the study affirmed that diversity in the microbiome led to greater weight gain independent of calorie consumption. People who had less diversity in their microbiome were absorbing and storing more calories than people who had more diversity. Okay? That's an epicaloric controller. Your microbiome makeup, the quality of the food that you're eating. Also, just from what I was taught in college, we know that this is true, but we forget it. The macronutrient makeup of the food that you're eating. We know that your body burns a significantly higher amount is getting burned. Calories are getting burned processing protein versus carbs and fat. All right. There's this thermic effect. So what type of calories are you eating? Because it's going to have a huge impact on your metabolic fingerprint.
So you're saying in that case, for example, that protein is I'm generalizing a little bit, so bear with me when I say this, but that protein is a very efficient calorie to consume is what I'm hearing you say.
Now, this is a great question because the word efficiency is where we can have some trouble because
Okay.
we do, of course, I love efficiency. I want efficiency. We want fuel efficient vehicles, right? But when it comes to metabolism, efficiency might not be the primary metric because in some regards, and I'm just going to give an example, in some regards, having a very efficient metabolism when we're eating, the banana, right? In the banana and cookie, we might convert that banana really efficiently into blood glucose and spike our blood sugar because it's so efficient. All right. And so it's even
That's
with
a good
efficiency,
point.
it depends on the context. It is context dependent. So this is not to say that we don't want an efficient metabolism where we have these metabolic clogs and things are not getting processed. I would say we want an appropriately efficient metabolism. And that is
Based on your objectives, right? I mean, because I think about so let's use an analogy of vehicles. We could all say that maybe a Prius is hyper efficient when it comes to burning fuel. But if I'm off-roading in the mountains, camping with my family, I may not be interested in fuel efficiency. I may be interested in low gear horsepower to get me up the mountain in 4-wheel drive.
Yeah.
So it's a case by case depending on what it's the same reason why in high school I played football and team dinners were like spaghetti dinners because of the carbohydrates. That was the common idea. Like get as many carbs as you can because you're going to need it for the game tomorrow. Stuff like that.
Yep, muscatoli, man. That was my favorite before the game. And I'd be tired after,
Oh yeah.
That's a really great analogy. That's a really great analogy. It's all about your needs, your purpose, your goals, what aligns with you, because we can eat any and everything, and humans have. All right. But does it align with you and how your unique metabolism is working right now? And that will change. That will change. And so it's building up these skills to be able to acknowledge what's best for me right now. And what happens is, unfortunately, we get dogmatic. We find something that works for us. Maybe we're doing this standard, and I come from this culture, this standard bro model of counting our calories, weighing our food, and it works at one point. And then suddenly, maybe it's 5 years later, like it's just not working for me anymore. Like what's wrong? And what we tend to do is just diet harder. Like it's me. I'm the problem. I'm doing it wrong. I just need to go and do more cardio, whatever. No, your epicaloric controllers have changed and we need to make adjustments there. So maybe it's changing the way that we're training. Maybe this is changing the macronutrient profile. Maybe it's changing the foods that we're eating because all calories are not the same and they do not resonate with our cells the same way at all times. And so it can get complex because there's a lot of factors, but some of the best data that we can get, if I'm just going to lay it all out here, we've got all this incredible self-quantification today. People are wearing all these wearables and tracking this and that. You could check everything from your heart rate variability to, your blood sugar with continuous glucose monitors. There's so much that we can track. And we're just getting started. I'm telling you, before you know it, we're going to have stuff that is able to track things that you can't even imagine. But
I mean, I think we're going to be cyborgs. This stuff's all going to be built and we're going to be chipped and it's going to be inside of us and it's going to detect things and it's going to be wild. A lot of great things will come from it and a lot of not so great things will come from it. Yeah,
man. I mean, I remember watching Cyborg when I was a kid, Jean-Claude Van Damme. I wanted to be a cyborg. Now it's a little bit more questionable, but where we are today, AI is here. My prescribed mandate for everybody is to be more human than you've ever been. Be more human than you've ever been. All of this self-quantification is great, but it can easily fuck you up because it's getting us outside of our bodies and we're so externally focused. Your body is telling you every single microsecond what it needs and what's best for you. But we're so externally focused, a lot of times we're not listening to that data and it's right there. you are a fucking genius.
You're not talking about the data. You're talking more about intuition, I think is what you're saying. Am I understanding you? Because data to me says the empirical peer-reviewed evidence. Intuition is, hey, I don't feel right. I feel sluggish. I feel bloated. I feel whatever. And is that what you're saying? Pay more attention to that?
Intuition is, and we've got that seems like a soft science to even say that.
Okay.
Word, all right. But
got
we've
it.
got,
Okay.
again, we've got mountains of data on intuition, but it's beyond intuition. It's biofeedback. It's biofeedback. All right. Pay attention to how you look. You see yourself. Pay attention to how you feel. We're not talking about intuition and literally, how do you feel? You know if you're more tired today than you were yesterday. Pay attention to that shit. This is not intuition.
Well, I know.
It's just paying attention to how you feel and pay attention to how you perform. Pay attention, can I do the same thing or this workout? Like, I just did this 3 days ago. It's so much harder now. Or this is easier. Like, I was able to do 10 more pounds today. Like, I feel really good. What did you do to get here? Did you have a great night of sleep? Right? Did you, like your last workout where you didn't perform well, did you have an argument with somebody that you care about? Right? Were you stressed at work? All right. So we're not going to use intuition as an out, not to devalue intuition, but this is paying attention to the biofeedback. And our body is screaming at us all the time, giving us this data. And my point being this, your wearable can tell you that, oh, I didn't get enough deep sleep last night. Like, fuck, like I didn't, I must not have recovered. But you might feel awesome. You might feel the best you have. And then you start to play this, and a lot of this is non-conscious. You play this game with yourself where you talk yourself into being more tired because the wearable told you that you didn't sleep well. And the wearable is far from perfect in giving you that data. This is, again, it's great, and it can give us some parameters, but it can also guide us to not listen to our bodies, which is far more powerful in giving us this feedback.
This is the what was nocebo or non-SIBO? This is what you're talking about right here.
Yes, exactly. You could nocebo yourself. Yes.
Right. Interesting. I like that you're talking about this because I even in reading your book, at some points I was like, man, this is so deep. I don't understand about the ghrelin and and mitochondria. But then when I hear you talk more about the biofeedback, and that's a much better nomenclature for what I was talking about than intuition. That makes sense because I know, for example, if I go to lunch today here in the next hour or whatever it might be, and I go get myself a double Whopper at Burger King, it's going to be delicious. Like, it really is going to be good. But an hour later, my workday is done. I might as well just not come back to work because I'll be tired, I'll be sluggish, I'll be distracted. But if I go have a chicken breast that I cooked 2 days ago and I have, some rice and asparagus, it may not be as amazing tasting as Burger King right away, but I'm going to feel better. I'm going to have focus. I'm going to have clarity. I'm going to have energy. This is what I hear you talking about.
Yeah, because your intuition can tell you to go to Burger King, right?
True. Yeah.
But is that really your intuition? That's the thing with intuitive eating. It's keeping it in context, right? You are able to think more broadly, have a meta perspective, and to zoom in and have a micro perspective as well. And to decide on how do I want to feel and where I am right now. And so this is, again, very evolved capabilities that we have as humans. And our ability to intuitively eat, if we want to label it that, or to have healthy biofeedback is dependent on how much static is on the line with that intuition. And where does that static come from? If my habitual or kind of cultural habits have been to eat a lot of fake ass food, and this is what my tissues are made of, my brain is made of this stuff, my intuition to go to Burger King might be a little bit off because all of this signaling, these signaling molecules the stuff that's making my tissues, this is not what we evolved having and how we evolved to run. And so that can be off in of itself. If we're spending all day staring at our phones, I challenge you to think about a time when you were doom scrolling for an hour on your phone and you got off like, man, I feel great. Like,
I feel a lot better than when I started.
like we tend to feel kind of like drunk. Like if we're on our phones, staring at our phones all that time, that's going to throw off. That's static on the line. That's all this external focus, right? All these micro stressors in our environment. There's all these messages of negativity that so many of us are getting fed consciously. This is all static on the line to be listening to what our body is telling us. And so when we have that thing of like, yeah, intuitively, like my inner child is telling me that I need to go and get some ice cream. My intuition is saying, Ben and Jerry. What does that mean? Right. And that's not necessarily intuition. Not to say that your intuition doesn't deserve or should have some ice cream, but being able to get that clear feedback, that takes practice, that takes clarity, that takes cleaning up. Oh, one more big component is the microbiome. We know today that those microbes influence our consciousness. This is well established. All those trillions and trillions and trillions of bacteria, they have their own goals and desires and wishes, and they can be sending out messages to you that you are misconstruing as your intuition, that you need to go and grab that ice cream sandwich, right? Because certain bacteria really are, they love that. They want that. They want to stay in control.
Or the
right?
Coffee, like you were saying.
Right, or the coffee, right? And so where's the information really coming from? And the healthier we can get our microbiome with focusing on diversity, even when we're eating healthy, right? And we're doing, because this is what happened to me, right? I was just sharing this with my son when I was in college and I was working at a casino in St. Louis. All right, shout out to, no, I'm not going to shout them out, damn them. But I was working at a casino and one of my coworkers he won Mr. Missouri, like Caveman Missouri, whatever, like natural bodybuilding, whatever. And it was this Nigerian guy, great guy. And he, I worked out, but he was like, hey, we should work out together, whatever. So I was like, yeah, man, you know what you're doing. So like, let me train with you. And, having that opportunity to actually learn what I was doing and learn to train. So I was sharing this with my family about, this exposure that I got in training and being able to like pick up this data. And one of the things that he got me onto was like, this is 2000. This is actually 2000. Like
this is,
1999, 2000, taking creatine, which is having a huge moment right now.
It is.
But just being able to like get this exposure, pick up these data points. He taught me supersets, so like drop sets, was doing all this stuff. But what I was getting was this diversity of inputs, and it's very similar with the microbiome. It's something that we can target, is looking at not just the diversity, but also understanding that everything has its place. And we want to have a microbiome that has more what we consider to be probiotic or friendly flora that's running things, and less of the pathogenic or opportunistic bacteria. But I didn't say none. I didn't say none.
It's got to be
everything has
in
its
a way.
place. Right. It's about the balance. Everything has its purpose. And what got us into the situation where we become, now there's all these like deadly or very serious antibiotic resistant conditions that are emerging. Like it's crazy because we went too far in trying to kill everything. Right. And just thinking like, oh, we found this pathogenic bacteria strain. We just need to bomb it out. And then, we can just move on from there. And so having this haphazard use of antibiotics, and whether it's the things that we're putting on our hands, whether it's the things that we're consuming, just to have a better relationship with all this stuff. Because, last point, a strong, healthy microbiome is a resilient microbiome, right? And so learning that resiliency from my exposure and training with my friend, like Externally, we need that same resiliency internally by focusing on how do we support the proliferation of healthy bacteria. This is the last piece of this. Listen to this. When I was eating what he talked about, chicken, rice, broccoli, chicken, rice, broccoli, chicken, sweet potato, broccoli, right? Eating this meal strategy, I fell into this eating, quote, eating healthy, but eating the same foods over and over again and missing the diversity to feed my microbiome. So we need to be mindful of that. Add in some new stuff, proactively. And it's not that difficult because these microbes these are very, very small organisms. A little bit can go a long way. So what I want to encourage everybody to do is to look up, and there are great websites that have this information. I'm going to share one with you. Let's see. Let's do it's called Seasonal. Here it is. Seasonalfoodguide.org. Seasonalfoodguide.org. You can look up what is seasonal and available in your local area. I do this all the time. It got me onto a lot of different foods that I wouldn't have normally eaten or even thought about, or even knew. And just adding stuff in and eating some foods that are in season, encouraging diversity. Life is giving us these foods in our environment for a certain reason, I believe.
At a certain time. Yeah.
And what we have today is great, that we can eat whatever we want whenever we want. It is a blessing in some ways, but it can be a curse in others. And so what is the environment trying to feed you to keep you resilient, right? So focus on the diversity. Get 5 to 7 servings of fermented foods every week as well. Target that. And this can be, again, dairy versions to vegetable versions to their meat versions as well. When I was working at the university gym, the university that I graduated from, I got to work with people from all over the world. And once I became aware of this was, again, about 20 years ago, I started asking people from, whether they're from Ireland, whether they were from Ethiopia, whether they were from India. Hey, did you grow up, what kind of fermented food did you guys have? Every culture ate fermented foods.
Has something. Yeah, sure.
Every culture ate cultured foods. And our ancestors figured this out a while ago, because that can provide us with not just prebiotics, so the prebiotic substrate, but probiotics, a variety of different strains that help us to make postbiotics in us for us, right? So like short chain fatty acids that help with our cognitive function, our heart health. It's a symbiotic thing that we evolve with. So be proactive in getting those in as well.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, we're going to move over to our exclusive Iron Council segment. But before I get to that, just let the guys know who are listening right now, who are not members of the Iron Council, where to connect with you. You have the three. Do you have the 3 books or more than 3? Because I know Sleep Smarter, Eat Smarter, and then you have the newer Eat Smarter Family Cookbook as well. Yes. So let the guys know where to go and connect with you on those things.
Awesome. Yeah, of course. You can pick those up anywhere that books are sold. The Eat Smarter Family Cookbook is the most tactical. And I'm grateful to say, when it came out, it was the #1 cookbook in the United States, USA Today national bestseller, all that good stuff. I'm a foodie, man. I love food. And so the recipes are delicious. And it's for guys like us, that grew up, like, I love McDonald's breakfast. How do we upgrade that? And there's great stories in there as well. Like I shared,
it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
I share the story of in the movie Big Daddy with Adam Sandler, when he takes the kid to McDonald's and he misses the cutoff. Like, I identify with that so much. And because if I didn't get up in time or get out the door in time, I missed that breakfast. And, like, that's all I want is that breakfast sandwich. So there's an upgraded breakfast sandwich in there that is.
Okay, I haven't seen that. I've gone through the book a little bit, but I have not seen that one. So I'm going to take a look at that one for sure.
Yeah, there's burgers in bowls. There's incredible dinner options, but all of it is based on science as well. So we're not skimping on the deliciousness. And by the way, there are thousands of families now that have that. And people, they post and send me the photos. It stays in their kitchen. It stays in their kitchen. And I'm so grateful, because that's what it was about. It's about, yes, upgrading our nutrition, eating real food, but it's also about family. And so that's why, and I'm going to share this with you guys. I don't usually talk about this. I had to fight to get family in the title.
Really?
Yeah, because the
That's
publishing
surprising.
industry, they're like, and I'm with one of the big five, the big five publishers, but they're like, family in the title doesn't work well. It doesn't sell as many copies. But I understood at that point, being in this business at this long, because I know colleagues of mine all the time, people who are first time authors, they're like, they made me change this, that. No. This is
We're not doing
mine.
that.
This is mine. This is what the name is. And I stood on business and made sure that it was in the title itself. They're like, oh, you're putting this subtitle. No. Family Cookbook is in the title because a lot of the science in the book, and as you'll discover really quickly, one of the studies found that people who eat with their family, with children who eat with their caregivers or their parents, just 3 meals per week have a dramatic reduction in the development of obesity and disordered eating. All right. There's something about that 3 meals per week is a minimum effective dose seen in multiple trials that it has a protective effect on our children. And we talk about why. And that's just for starters. And so that science is in there. Delicious food is in there. Eat Smarter Family Cookbook is available everywhere books are sold, as is Eat Smarter and Sleep Smarter.
Awesome. Shawn, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for joining us today.
It's my pleasure.
So this first question comes from Ken Newcomb. He says, I am intermittent fasting, which he says you are a fan of. If I am training jujitsu first thing in the morning, am I okay staying in a fasted state even with that heavy cardio?
That's a great question. That is a great question. Now, I would love to have a follow-up question like, how long have you been doing that? Are you intermittent fasting and training right now? Because it's really about, and this is just to keep it very simple, it's about how you feel personally. I can't give you like a definitive thing. If you feel great training in that fasted state and then fueling up after, keep doing it. But I would say for the majority of people, because it is something that is kind of glycolytic pathway, very cognitive, they might need a little something. All right. And this could be.
What would you recommend?
This is going to be individual. I'm going to give some options. This could be some ketones. All right. Could be some ketones. It could be, having a little bit of something that has some glucose along with it. So, maybe, again, it depends on the person, maybe a little bit of carbs with some protein, so maybe a couple of eggs and some sweet potato. Or it could be a situation which for myself personally, it depends on what I'm doing though, but maybe a little coffee with some protein, put some cold brew with the protein powder, right? I run really well on amino acids, right? And your body can utilize those aminos, gluconeogenesis, and make that into glucose if need be. But what I would say is be cautioned to not get into a catabolic state with your muscle. You want to protect your muscle. So if that means like having a little bit of something beforehand, but the most important thing is if you feel good doing it, keep doing that, right? There isn't a cookie cutter way to do it.
What is catabolic state? I'm not familiar with that term. What does that mean? Because when I go train, I train in the morning first thing. I usually don't have anything, and I like doing it that way because it feels, if I eat anything, I feel like I'm going to throw up.
Yeah.
So what is catabolic state? Or is that what you said? Catabolic?
Yes. Well, that's one of the things. But so there's, I don't like to generalize, but when I was in school with this expensive education, we're taught, basically we have these two states. We're in a catabolic state or an anabolic state, right? Anabolic sounds way better. Catabolic is a breaking down of, anabolic is building up of. There's a dance that's happening all day with this stuff, right? So I was trained that anabolic state is just basically when you're sleeping, all right? There's some studies showing you can get a little bit of that anabolism, like when you are when you're meditating a certain way, but it's very difficult to be in this anabolic state. These are kind of tied to the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic, fight or flight, parasympathetic, rest and digest. Really, when we're resting, when we're restoring ourselves, we're dipping our toes into some anabolic things. Strength training is an anabolic stimulus. We get some anabolic benefits, but we're catabolizing, we're breaking our bodies down. So it
Right.
stimulates the
Those
anabolic
benefits
growth.
come later.
Right. But it doesn't
Right.
mean when you go to sleep that night, which that is the biggest anabolic state, just to be clear, absolutely. But we dip our toes into anabolic recovery all the time. Your body isn't just this kind of like off or on, I'm doing one or the other, period, point blank. There's a dance that's happening. And so, with that being said, for you, your body already has the fuel to be able to do your training. That's why you're able to do your training. All right. So, you have stored glycogen in your liver, in your muscles. So, if you are using your stored glycogen in your muscles, for example, you just want to make sure you add, you fill those containers
Replenish.
back up again.
Sure.
Right. So it's
Got
about
it.
doing what feels good. I'm a fan of having something though. And so for me, again, coffee with a little bit of protein is what I've been found. That's what I do recently, right? There was a big phase where I didn't have anything or coffee with some butter, that kind of thing. But it's situation dependent. I've done a lot of fasted training sessions. So it just depends on what feels good to you.
Perfect. That's that biofeedback I think that you were talking about. All right. So this one comes from Dustin Stokes. He says that he's really enjoyed the book. I don't know if you knew, we used this last month for our book of the month inside the Iron Council. So this is timely. But he said for guys in their 40s and 50s, when your metabolism starts to slow and weight becomes harder to lose, what are the two most important strategies surrounding nutrition, micronutrient supplements, and medical interventions? Now, this is a lot, such as TRT, GLP-1, where appropriate.
Just even with that, since we're talking about just even the introduction of those things, those are huge topics, GLP-1s, TRT.
Definitely.
So
Yeah.
we can't.
Peptides, GLP is a peptide, right?
Yeah, and there's so many more. Oh, listen to this. I wrote Eat Smarter in 2018, 2019. All right. I started to work on it then and completed it in 2020. So, I mean, I was doing the research prior. So 2019
Right.
is when I like really put the book together, and it came out the first week of 2021. I was talking about GLP-1s all those years ago. GLP-1, adiponectin, leptin, ghrelin, all this stuff. Our body has a vast array of satiety and hunger hormones that are doing this dance. All right. And we don't even know all of them yet. But I was talking about GLP-1 in relationship to food, in relationship to lifestyle factors that help us to regulate our blood sugar. I had no idea that this GLP-1 movement was coming down the pike.
Would blow
but I
up
talked
like it
about
did.
this as of this recording 6 years ago because the data was right there. So I'm saying that to say that we need to be very careful about jumping right to any of those things. If your lifestyle is not in order and you are just tearing through your testosterone because you're sleep deprived, all right, we've got a fascinating study done on young men, all right, so in their early 20s, college age men, absolutely tanking their testosterone levels to that of men who are decades older by being sleep deprived for just 1 week. Just 1 week. Testosterone is very likely our most sleep dependent hormone. It's like jacking into the charging station. Your testosterone is going up in correlation with how much sleep you're getting. And if you're sleep deprived, that's one. So again, we're jumping on to TRT without it. Are you sleeping or are you
Right.
fucking around? So we got to check all these boxes first. Are you strength training? Are you eating too much sugar? And you're upticking your aromatization where your testosterone is getting converted into estrogen. And then you come in with this, right? Not to take it off the table, but if you jump right to that, chances are it's not going to work for you in the long term, especially in the long term. Short term, yeah, you're going to be feeling it.
You're going to feel great. Yeah, no
All
doubt.
right. But eventually, there is no free lunch. There is no free lunch. So with GLP-1, same thing. Are we checking the boxes? Or are we coming in with this Band-Aid solution here that's going to work for a little while, possibly get us dependent on something and not really addressing the root cause? So to circle back.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you're good. That makes sense. We used to have this T-shirt. Maybe you need to bring it back. We called it the T-Booster T-shirt. And on the back, it just said, compete, lift heavy, eat meat, sleep, have sex, be manly. That's the way you boost testosterone. And everybody mocked it. No, that's the way you do it. It is exactly by the research the way that you do it.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
That's, oh man, I love that. And to answer that question too about, over 40 and we were just sharing. So I haven't shared this with anybody, but, doing the biological age testing, getting over 100 metabolic factors checked, immune system factors, organ function, testosterone. I'm not on any of the stuff. All right. My testosterone was at the edge of being abnormally high. All right. So it's over 1,000. All right. Not to take out the potential, like all that stuff is an option, but what are you doing with your lifestyle? And one of the biggest factors today, and Lord knows how good my markers would have been had I not had the most stressful year of my life as well. Right.
Yeah.
And so I also found that there was a key nutrient deficiency that I had no idea. Right. And for many people, like 60% of the population is deficient in vitamin D. For African Americans, is like almost 80%. And
really?
It could be a methylation. Yeah. Because it evolved. Like,
is it the absorption rate or something? Is that what it is?
Melanin in the skin. It's like sunscreen.
Wild.
Right. And so
that's right.
More time in the sun because, you're just wired to be that way. And we don't live in a culture, especially in the United States, where we're outside a lot. And so vitamin D supplementation might be a good idea. And vitamin D can potentially, oh my God, this just came out. I'm going to share it with you, man. All right. This just came out. Okay. This was published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. And it found that taking just one capsule of vitamin D3 each day, which is around 40 cents, can slow your rate of aging at a cellular level. And this was a 4-year study. And the researchers found that people who took this intervention with vitamin D3 prevented the equivalent of nearly 3 years of aging versus people who do not.
Whoa.
All right. So it's tied to so many other metabolic factors, immune system factors, testosterone, what your hormones are doing. Are you getting enough sunlight? Are you taking vitamin D3? Because you might need more, or maybe you have methylation issues, or maybe you have, the list goes on and why a deficiency could happen. But what are you going to do about it? And you can't know unless you check. At minimum, get your vitamin D checked. All right. You need vitamin D3 if you're taking supplements. When I was in school, we weren't taught that there was a difference. Now we know there's a clear difference. There's multiple forms of vitamin C, multiple forms of magnesium, multiple forms of B12. It's not all one thing. You're not just going to get it from a little bitch ass supplement. All right. A multivitamin. All right. You've got to make sure D3 and vitamin K2 along with it, because the K2 is going to make sure you're going to optimize absorption and help to ensure that the D3 is going where it's supposed to go in your body. Has a big relationship with calcium, which is a whole other topic, but take it with vitamin K2 and also get some sunlight regardless. It's how we evolved to actually make D3. It's a complex process how we do it, but cholesterol is converted. Well, let's not even get into it. It has to do with our liver and our kidneys, but we need sun exposure to the best of our ability. Right. And the cool thing is that your body is really good at like kind of storing stuff away. Like, so the months, one of the big things, well, what if you live
winter
in, whatever. Yeah. I'm from Missouri. Okay. We got extremes of everything. Winter is no joke. I get it. But spring and summer, when you get sun exposure, do your best to build up and utilize that, optimize that. And so I hope that is helpful. So,
right.
Last thing. This is super quick. Okay. So over 40, vitamin D3 supplementation, and or make sure you're optimizing your sun exposure. We want to make sure from the nutrition, we're just talking about nutrition here. We really need to be even more mindful of our macronutrient ratios for us. Okay. We have these wars going on where now it's like, I grew up and was in school during the low fat epidemic. Okay. Marketing. Yeah. And then we go the whole other extreme, like low carb. The carbs are
carnivore.
Bad. All right. Carnivore. Yes. And I know these are my friends and colleagues who are like the faces of these respective diets. But the thing is, it's what's best for you right now. Your body might be screaming at you to give it some more carbs. And this can help with serotonin production. This can help with, there's even some potential in helping with testosterone and aromatization and your body not going overboard if you're eating the right carbs for you right now. There's so many different benefits. Potentially, this could be having less carbs. And so over 40, tinker with your macronutrient ratios if you're not seeing the results that you want in your training, in your body composition. D3 I mentioned. What else would be another tip here nutritionally? And this is really, really tough. I want to say the thing that I want to say, which I'm going to say this. It's outside of the nutrition realm. Obviously, eat real food, but fucking walk. Like, this is where we have. It's overwhelming. It's hard to go online if you're into any kind of fitness stuff and not see people talking about walking. Again, I've been talking about this for years.
Even more so than I've seen forever.
It's one of the most effective ways to really clear your body of glucose, clear your bloodstream of glucose, get it into your muscle cells, your legs, especially your calves, are like a sink to soak up that glucose if you're walking after your meals. Just walk, make it a mandate. You should be getting in at minimum. And I've got studies, and I've shared this before, looking specifically at testosterone. All right. 4,000 steps a day was the minimum effective dose to have a market.
That seems low.
Right. It is low. But that is like the minimum effective dose to not be like madly deficient in what your body's potential is with testosterone. 8,000 to 12,000. That was the optimal range of like seeing some.
I try to get 10 a day is my goal. 10 a day. If I can do that, I feel pretty good about my steps.
Yep. So we can put this in terms of steps. You can put this in terms of minutes, but it's good to at least get a little pedometer to get a beat on, but walk. Yeah. It's a great time to process your thoughts,
no doubt.
to, just be more human. Walk, especially over 40. But this is something, again, 30s, 20s. We're so sedentary. Just walking is going to be so helpful with your body composition and performance.
Awesome. Shawn, I appreciate you. Again, I know you got to get going. I kept you longer than I said I would, but thank you for taking that extra time. The guys are going to find value in that. And again, guys, go check out Shawn, buy his books, go check out the show. And Shawn, appreciate you, brother. Thanks for joining me today.
It's my pleasure, man. Thank you.